So listing agents and sellers, this is my initial training. Just know that in the past, when a listing agent came to your home and you were interested in working with them, they'd say something like, well, my listing fee is 6%. 3% goes to me. 3% goes to the buyer's agents. Many, many times the sellers would say, well, I'm interested in you selling my home, but why am I paying a buyer agent? And listing agents said, and I think rightly so, that by offering buyer agents compensation to do the work, come see the property ahead of time, especially the strong ones will bring their buyers in, you'll get more offers, you'll get stronger offers. When those buyers have cold feet, they'll still be kept in the transaction instead of using normal today's terms, ghosting you. And overall, we sure saw a lot of multiple offers and strong offers going over list price for a long period of time. Without buyer agent compensation being offered, there may be properties where you're trying to get more than fair market value because your property's wonderful, it looks great. Maybe your property needs work. Maybe the market's slow. Maybe it's the wrong time of year. Maybe there's issues with your property. Maybe you just want to see more offers of your property because you'll get, with a good process, you'll be able to stack them, rank them, and maybe get some of those buyers that just they try to start with a deal, but they're also competitive and they'll pay way more. Maybe you're like, I'd like to try that process. And that's what this is about. So the first day, at least there needs to be a period of time. You talk to your listing agent. You agree to compensate your listing agent in exchange for the work the listing agent is going to do to sell your property. Then it goes up on the MLS. I'd say wait 24 hours at least, but longer probably, and see how many showings you're getting. If you're not getting any showings, maybe it's time to compensate buyer's agents. Broadcast to them. If you're getting offers but they're not strong enough, maybe you're going to want to broadcast. If you get tons of offers coming in and you're going to be able to negotiate and pass your list price, well, maybe you don't need to pay a buyer's agent, right? So why not take advantage of that situation? The other thing about this is once you decide to offer buyer agent compensation, your agent's going to know more about this. But I say you should have a marketing period and then an open house weekend. And you say at the end of the open house, we're going to look at all the offers and we're going to let everyone know where they stand. And it's going to be a very open process. You're going to know who we're considering the strongest offer and why, and you're going to have an opportunity to beat it if you'd like. So it works really well. That's all I can say. Many, many times we'll see people come in and they start off with the lowest offer and they make super strong offers. Now, I have little trainings for listing agents on there about ways to not, I don't believe you offer high, you don't say this to everyone. You keep a few offers on the side and you let the other people compete. Because some people want a chance to win, but you've already got a really strong offer. You don't want to jerk them around. You want to say, hey, we really respect your offer. We're just going to let these people compete. We'll come back to you later. There's little things like that we can train over time from our experience that really helps you sell your home. The great thing about this is that just like the DOJ wanted to say, let's say you get a bunch of offers, $1 million, up to $1.2 million. Some of those say we're not requesting any buyer agent compensation, but some are saying we want $20,000, we want $30,000, we want $50,000. You're going to know and you're going to be able to rank and stack them. So by offering buyer agent compensation, if you got multiple offers, it may not have cost you anything. It may have just made you money. More. You might put more in your pocket because of offering broadcasting buyer agent compensation. And if there's no offers, and then you have one offer, well, you can't really say for sure it made a difference, but maybe it did. And it was probably worth the risk. But that's your decision in the end. That's just how I feel about it after years of doing this. And you'll see I have videos on this very process for years on my YouTube channel. This is not a new thing for me. I help some sellers sell without offering any compensation at all. I'm not always pro buyer agent compensation. I have videos on that there too. So now you're going to be like, well, all these agents that I talked to said you can't offer buyer agent compensation. Well, your agent can't do it. They don't have the forms for it. It was removed from them by the associations because everyone's now aware that there are legal risks and complications. The DOJ has spoken up. The class action lawyers have spoken up. Your realtor's not licensed to explain the risks to you. Your realtor's not licensed to create the forms you need. I think, for instance, this form is you're going to learn as a principal, you have a right, in my legal opinion, to broadcast buyer agent compensation. And you're, as principal, instructing your agent to do it. You're instructing your agent to be able to have a website where people can come and ask if there's buyer agent compensation, have an AI or a bot instantly respond to them, even if it's at night. You're going to maybe put it on your yard sign. We are offering compensation to buyers agents too. Agents, bring your buyers. We're offering compensation if you want to put that on your sign. We're advising you to consider having your agent offer compensation at the meeting caravans where all the agents come out and tour homes. They go in there with flyers and they say, hey, we're offering 2% for closings if the house sells within the next 60 days. Offering broadcasting it on social media using Facebook and YouTube to the strong buyers in a buyer pool in your area. Offering open house, broadcasting compensation attached to open houses, and also perhaps broadcasting compensation using Facebook and other media directly to agents. And also there's also services that will send flyers out to agents, and you can offer broadcasts on there. And then we're also have channels within our business model that we're setting up for agents to do it for no expense, but tell other agents that they'll be offering buyer agent compensation. And hopefully our AI will be able to search and get them the answer very quickly. So that's why you would consider offering buyer agent compensation. Now, before you do it, the idea is as principle, it's still legal in California, and to you it doesn't matter whether they call themselves listing agents or buyer's agents. You're saying, I will pay you if you bring a buyer to our property 2% at close. It's still legal. They're not going to take that away from agents. If they did, then it would only be for sale by owners and those with attorneys. There'd be no agents. If they take this rule away from agents, there'll be no agents. Because that doesn't make any sense. What does it matter whether it's a listing agent or a buyer's agent? If the agent is doing work to try to bring buyers to your property, it's the same concept. Okay, so now, acknowledging the risks. The DOJ said one of the risks is that by offering compensation to buyer's agents on a percentage basis, you are incentivizing buyer's agents to have their buyers pay too much for a home. So on $100,000 up, that could be $3,000 more to the buyer agent. On $1 million up, it could be $30,000 more to a buyer's agent. And those numbers add up for different people to different levels of compromise, but you can see why they were saying that. Now, one of the ways around it is quite simply to say, I would like to offer about 2%. So on $1 million home, you say, well, that'd be $20,000. So we'll offer 19 plus, plus there's $1,000 set aside for a buyer agent attorney. If you're going to request buyer agent compensation and we pay it, there needs to be a buyer attorney on the hunt for that $1,000. And you'll see why. Steering. Steering is a little more complicated. It hasn't been solved by these issues. In fact, it's been exacerbated. There's now buyer agent training on the net where the buyers now have to get their buyers, the buyer's agents have to agree to get their buyers to pay them, let's say 2%. Now, they're saying I have to be paid even if the seller isn't offering 2%, even if they're only offering 1%, or even if they're offering 0%. If you want to buy that home, I get paid 2%. So then they're going to say, are you willing to pay me out of pocket? And if they say no, that means the buyer agent has to make an increase, but any place that's not offering that 2%, they're not going to show you the home. So that's steering. It's massive steering. It's worse. Now, what was the issue with steering? The issue with steering is that buyers were not really aware all the time that their money was being used by the seller to pay their agent. Right? Buyers are like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were taking the money that I could be making, and they were saying I'm going to offer 3% or 4% and trying to get my agent to steer me to that property. Now, with an attorney on there, a lawyer on their team, and the forms that we are going to sign, and I'm going to tell you one of the forms available to the clients of certified sellers advocates that they can get from me will be a waiver, but they're going to be handwriting in the fact that they understand that they're asking for X, let's say it's 2% or $20,000. They're asking for $20,000, that their money is coming from the proceeds they're bringing to the close, and that the escrow agent has been instructed by the seller and at the request of the buyer to pay that $20,000 to their buyer's agent, and that they are saying they would rather have their buyer agent paid than get a price reduction of that $20,000, and we're making them handwrite that in with other clauses. So that's one thing. And they had a chance to talk to an attorney about it. And they understand that they have options, but they'd like to have their buyer agent paid by the seller. We're also having, so that's the acknowledgement and request. There's also a waiver in which they waive their right to participate in lawsuits, whether it be a class action suit or a lawsuit over compensation of their buyer's agent. And I don't want to get into this deeply, but as an attorney, I've had many, many calls from disgruntled buyers over the years. Sometimes because disclosures weren't made, sometimes major problems, like we were told that this property had sewer, but it's really it doesn't have a sewer. It's got some sort of sump system in the front, and that should have been disclosed to us. And I was like, well, that's a good point. But other times it's just disgruntled buyers saying, I feel like I paid too much. I need an out, looking for outs, like you sense that. And in down markets, it happens all the time. So while it was hard to find attorneys before, now that attorneys knows there's a crosshair on the head of realtors for offering buyer agent compensation, and they're likely to pull the sellers in too if there's disclosure issues and just sue them all, we've had to find a way around this. That's what this does. We've got these waivers, these acknowledgments, and handwritten forms and a buyer attorney on their team. I think it goes a long way to bringing those risks back to where they were before. There were always these risks before. Now we've become more aware of them, so we've had to make a process that brings them back down, approximately where the levels they were, in my opinion, although that's really silly to me as a lawyer. The point is I cannot quantify the exact risk, but there are risks, but we're doing our best to mitigate and eliminate them. And that's one of the reasons why your seller is a certified seller advocate and why we have this process with the websites. I can't really quantify what the level of risk is because there's also other risks that we're not aware of that maybe plaintiffs' lawyers will think of in the future. So the safest thing is to not offer buyer agent compensation, not broadcast it, and not agree to it. But if you're going to do it, then you need this form, or if you're going to do it as part of if you weren't offering buyer agent compensation ahead of time, but a request came in with an offer, you should have that form in the same process then. In my brokerage, anytime buyer agent compensation is being paid, there's going to be a buyer's attorney paid on the HUD, and there's going to be these forms, the waiver and acknowledgement form. Now, if my seller says no to that, I'm not sure I'll even be willing to represent them. I'd have to look into it, but I'm telling you that it's just not smart. If you're paying some money to a realtor, you should make sure there's a buyer attorney on the HUD. Maybe some sellers just hate attorneys more than realtors, but in that case, I don't even know why they'd be working with me. If you're working with them, I'd say that's a red flag. You probably should have an attorney on the team. And then here's the other things. Consultation with attorney, that's pretty explanatory. Here is $1,000. I want all the sellers to understand that. And that's going to be maybe a little bit more for the listing agent to tell the buyer's agent, hey, you're going to have an attorney on the HUD. And the buyer agent's going to have to work a little bit harder, making sure they get an attorney on their team, and that consultation happens before closing, so that the attorney gets paid. But it's part of protecting sellers and doing the process the right way, and not running afoul of class action lawyers or DOJ people for doing things irresponsibly, hopefully. And then I'm sure over time we will have more general provisions. Some people might call them boilerplate. Some people might say, I really like this thing that was on. Maybe another attorney or a broker will say, I really like this clause on these other forms. Can we include those? And I'll probably agree. And maybe we'll make these forms look prettier too over time. So that is the training. So congratulations, sellers. Congratulations, agents. If you agree to our two-step listing process, which you'll see more of, you're now a certified seller advocate, at least for now. We'll probably have more training and better training over time. We will. But for now, you understand it. If you're agreeing that to use these forms and advise your clients to come talk to me at Certified Seller Advocate or at my personal website, winnerscheck.com, Certified Seller Advocate, wherever I have it. If you're agreeing to send your sellers there to watch this video and then download the forms, and I'll make this short over time, I'm sure, then you're a Certified Seller Advocate if you're following that two-step process and you're protecting your clients and making sure they're in their forms. We'll go into more detail in our community. We'll have the other forums in our community. And just know there's a disclaimer here saying, really, I'm trying to do this one-to-many. I think we've done a pretty good job, but really, maybe you need an attorney at all times because every case is different. And that option will be available to the clients of certified seller advocates. Now, for realtors, because I wanted to be done with this, it would also work for sellers, I'm going to make an offer to you in the next video below this. I think that video, for some people, will be a really interesting deal. Now, I don't think listing agents that only do 1 or 2 listings are going to be interested in this, but if you're doing this, if real estate is your full-time job and you're doing listings, I'm going to show you how I think you can really separate yourself out from the pack and make it really easy, because we are employing technology. Go High Level and UpHex are included in this package for the delivery method, because I'm using it in my own brokerage and I'm like, this is so good. I've got to share this with certified seller advocate agents. So that'll be the next video. Thanks. John McConnin at gettingclientspro.com. This was the form and the training for offering buyer agent compensation in California.